thing is, it's starting to affect my work.
Really?
I'm a marriage guidance counsellor.
Yeah, I can see how that might be a bit of a problem.
Divorce the bitch!
You've reached the offices of Andrew Luke and an essay devoted to Press Gang's Series 3 finale. So why not go ahead and give this video a like now before it unrolls facts, trivia, commentary, analysis, its feature focus and special guests. Now let's open the pages.
It is the year 2005.
This is Lee Ross's final episode, unexpectedly. He left because he was expecting a film role which he wasn't offered. Numerous sources have reported or told me the decision caused difficulties for Hasty and Moffat, and some say even a little ill will between them for a while. I point this out now because the first line of dialogue seems to be a friendly, framed dig at Ross.
Look, we'll just fire Bennis and Stimson tomorrow and we'll leave Ross till next month.
Tear that band-aid off early, I suppose. Lynda, championing bitchdom in the future, mentions the explosion and South Side trigger phrases for program nerds like me. Hints were in Spike's subconscious. I love the expansive room here filled with opulent bust sculptures, decorative art and the incredible view. I'm pretty sure this isn't green screen and was a rented out location for the filming. Location manager Terry Blyther, whose future credits would include X-Men First Class and Alien vs Predator. Set designer Chris Powell, who also dressed the last episode. Powell moved into editing and producing Animal Park, Pet Rescue and various shows with Alan Titchmarsh.
Doesn't look like we'll be able to afford Damien Campbell's salary much longer. Suggest we assign him to a war zone.
Interesting little Easter egg there. The Campbell family who own the paper, Cameron and or David, who we've met, and Bobby, who'll take a full role next episode. Or Damien might be a reference to the character Damien Day from Press Gang rival Drop the Dead Donkey. Damien Day regularly manufactures and news, including war zones, in order to facilitate his easygoing lifestyle. Sawalha and Fletcher, all grown up, gives us the closest we're likely to get to a Press Gang Where Are They Now? That said, Big Finish have flirted with the idea over the years, and there's scope for Moffat's new series number 10 to introduce future versions of these characters as part of that universe. As it stands, this might be an insight into what number 10 has planned. It also picks up on the trends of the times. Dallas, Dynasty, high finance and fashion, shoulder pads and power moves. Julia Sawalha is rocking some hairdo courtesy of Stevie Hall. Hall's credits in the field on IMDb date from 1984 to 2008 and include Pirates of the Caribbean, The Curse of the Black Pearl. Lynda's outfit is made to look expensive too. That's costume designer Maria Price, series 2 to 4. And in the costume and wardrobe department, Myra Hella and James Lanyon on this block of 12 episodes. The costume is comparable to 21st century Street of Shame newspaper group editors like Rebecca Brooks. Lynda's skyscraper narrative can be reinforced in comparison. Brooks is currently worth $5 million, despite implication in disgusting criminal acts. Not exactly newspaper people struggling to turn a profit. Dream Lynda's behaviour registers high on the scale of Rebecca Brooks' morality in gaslighting someone as a head of an international drug syndicate. The wardrobe is boosted here by the dialogue and calls back to the last word, which gave us Lynda's power dressing. Use of her sexuality to get the upper hand. Other matter in Spike's subconscious includes his passport, and Zoe, a glammed-up airhead bimbo, says Lynda, not unlike words he uses later to describe Zoe, and this sets a scene for Zoe turning out moments later. Before that, Kenny on the phone, and a subtle piece of continuity with Chance is a fine thing.
Hey, Kenny, can I ask you a really dumb question?
Of course, as long as I can snigger about it with my friends afterwards.
Do you think dreams can predict the future?
What?
Well, you know, like tell you how things are going to turn out and that sort of stuff.
Here's Matt Saunders, former director of the Press Gang mailing list, to talk about Zoe and dreams.
So, Holding On is the end of series 3. Already, it feels like that came around so quickly, especially given that the first 2 series obviously were 13 and 12 episodes long, and we only got 6 this time. The show feels a little bit smaller, maybe, in season 3, 4, and 5. They're each 6 episodes only. But there's kind of like a pleasing arc to this one, with the Spike and Zoe and Spike's passport story kind of bookending it on both ends. Then we got the dream sequence. So we cut to 2005, which felt in 1991 just felt so unbelievably far in the future. And you've got Lynda's crazy hair and the scene up in the editor's office on the 40th floor, whatever it was. But then you go through the scene and realize that actually it's actually Spike's own subconscious playing with his emotions, because it's a dream. It's not a flash forward after all. It looks like a flash forward, but it's a dream. And Spike actually says in this, I just watched the episode again just now, and he actually says in it, if I ever get a shot at doing my whole life over again, ... which is very much the premise of Daydreams in the next series, which also, again, sorry, spoilers, turns out to be something that looks like a flash forward, but is a dream sequence. So yeah, Mr. Moffat there creating us a definite trope that he likes to use and reuse, and I really like it here. So yeah, it's a dream, and Spike's. Maybe I've tried to disassemble this too much, but it seems like Spike's subconscious is trying to wrestle him away from Lynda's clutches in the dream sequence in 2005, or as it turns out later in the episode, actually literally.
The dream sequence flits parallel to the newsroom and one of Holding On's. The dream sequence flits parallel to the newsroom and one of Holding On's memorable features. Moffat teases it with Sarah doing protective due diligence, safeguarding the story, and Kenny as audience surrogate, learning about the flavour of Junior Gazette madness this week, absorbing it and reacting with laughter, shock, and unsteadiness. You can see how Alex's pseudo-hypnotic tic is not something that parents would want their children repeating, say, in a game of problem and divorce a bitch. It's a surprise Moffat and Hasty went through with issuing this soft, sweary script for a 4:40 p.m. slot. Very, very ballsy and fairly amusing. Lee Ross displays sheer incomprehension. Kelda Holmes, Sarah's conviction we know so well, and because there's money in it for Colin, Paul Reynolds works to play it straight. The guest actors give a good turn. Alec Connell is played by Paul Mark Elliott. Elliott hams up the loss of control, despair, and frustration. A very young actor starting in 1972. 70 credits on IMDb. Roles include as an android in Blake 7, 3 of the comic strip Presents, in Blackadder Goes Forth, a regular on the Full Monty TV show. I'm surprised to learn of that as a thing as you are. As well as on Spaced, Adrian Mole's Cappuccino Years, and Fenton Beasley in the famous Pedo-Geddon episode of Brass Eye. In the Press Gang orbit, he'd guest on Absolutely Fabulous with Bob Spears and Julia Sawalha, 7 episodes of Joking Apart with Moffat and Spears, and 3 appearances on Murder Most Horrid, one by Spears, and I think one of them written by Ian Hislop. Moira O'Connell is played by Rebecca Stevens, who gives it all in solemnity. Stevens also appeared in a Bob Spears Murder Most Horrid, Series 1, Episode 5, Murder at Tea Time, starring Dexter Fletcher. Lead roles: Roy's Raiders, short-lived sitcom about an inept motorbike courier business. and Series 2 to 3 of Pirates, a BBC children's sitcom about a family of pirates living in a North London council estate. Stevens was a lead writer on the series. She acted and wrote for Alas, Smith and Jones too. Her post-press gang career has been about leaving acting behind for writing children's animation, notably 18 episodes of Postman Pat. The Shoe Man humorously contributes to the mise-en-scene, a third performing player in Colin's contract with Mr. Maringo. We might expect this level of effort to be part of a big money contract. What's more likely is Colin going to so much work for the love of the sale. An obsessive, just like Lynda. Nifty insert of 2005 Lynda set in by editor Michael John Bateman. Terry Blyther seems to have found a community theatre dressed up suitably by the 6-person art department. Lynda's microphone bug strikes me as a lichen metallic strip for holding medication, a little packet. Spike wants a serious chat to talk about feelings, but initially struggles with the ability to do so, a resonance of yesterday's news there. But he gets there, and Lynda seems a little off because she knows there are 4 others in this conversation. The gang are straight to business in fitting tone.
Phil, this is Spike.
Hi.
It's Phil's equipment we've been using.
Phil deserves a participation badge, don't you think? Humour concealing key plot elements again, in use of physicality, making a baton out of the cassette tape, happening relatively undetected too, until the reveal in the final scene.
The scene outside Maringo's theatre place, I love that as Spike's pouring his heart out to Lynda. Does he go for the safe bet, easy to be with Zoe, or Lynda, who's, I think he says, better in every single way, the woman of his dreams? And you're thinking, oh, right, this is it. Finally, everything's coming out on the table. We're getting a final decision here. But of course, Lynda isn't listening because it's just a recording test. She's treating it as a recording test. And yeah, it's played for laughs, deadpan laughs with the crew in the van recording everything. And again, everyone is brilliant here. Just, you could, there's a scene early in the episode where Colin's got his finger on his nose and you can see him kind of just corpsing a little bit underneath, kind of smiling when he shouldn't be. And there's so much in this episode where it is so funny, and yet everyone is just playing it entirely straight. We've got to talk about the Divorce the Bitch. I can't find a recording of it anywhere, but I remember when I was 16 years old in 1991 watching this. Children's ITV shows were introduced in Vision by a variety of people. At this time, it was Tommy Boyd. And I remember him saying something like there was some language in it that's not appropriate. I'm thinking, oh, wow, I'd love to imagine conversations that happened that led to that warning. Did Stephen Moffat get in trouble for that? Was like urgent phone calls in central television of like, what do we do with this episode? We can't cut those bits out because it's crucial to the story. Do we just show it? How did he get that in there in the first place? There's so much in some of these later episodes and some of the earlier ones, which are like, how did they get away with that? I don't know. But yeah, again, brilliantly played by all of the guest stars. Though those scenes, the Divorce the Bitch scenes, they wouldn't work if the characters, especially the guest stars in this episode, didn't play it entirely straight. Brilliant. Maringo is deftly played by Steve O'Donnell. I know him best from Bottom, the absolutely sublime sitcom with Rick Mail and Adrian Edmondson, where he played Spud Gun. And in this, he's got just about the right amount of menace and aggression when Spike and Lynda go to visit him, to suggest that they might actually be in some peril when they visit him. The way he slams the doors, and then the way that you end up with the crew in the van listening. But again, we're playing this gets played for laughs. It's almost voyeuristic, where you're listening to Maringo talking to Spike and Lynda, while all the others are listening to it in the van. And again, some of the best innuendo that you'll see in the entire series. Or hear, absolutely innuendo laden. That is, Moffat really pushing the boundaries of what you can get away with on on children's ITV at 4 p.m. in the afternoon. It's very subtle, very clever.
Now, one of this episode's characters, Sam Black, works in the Press Gang Readers Commentaries graphic department, and you'll see on screen now how Sam has whipped us up this lovely visual to introduce a feature focus on Steve O'Donnell. Excuse me one moment. Sam. Let's do our feature focus in. Steve O'Donnell. Born 1963, he spent 5 years at Charing Cross Hospital as a scientific officer in a medical lab. His first acting gig was age 22 in the Eurythmics music video for There Must Be an Angel, Playing With My Heart, appearing as the angel. Holding On is one of his earliest appearances, and also London's Burning, French and Saunders, The Bill, and his first lead role, Tygo Road, a one-series sitcom about a community centre which has just inherited a bunch of money. One-off appearances by Nick Stringer and Jake Wood. It's directed by Bob Spears and produced by Andrei Pazanski. Spears introduced Pazanski to Stephen Moffat, suggesting Moffat should write a sitcom. Moffat pitched him one set in a school, Chalk, which they'd work on 5 or 6 years later. Pazanski didn't initially warm to it. He noticed Moffat spoke passionately in their meeting about his divorce and suggested he write about that instead. This became Joking Apart. By the time of Holding On, its pilot was already produced. Sorry, I must have got sidetracked. Must have been a hypnosis. Stephen O'Donnell appeared in 12 Comic Strip Presents episodes. In The Hunt for Tony Blair, he played Donny Rumsfeld, and in Jealousy with Peter Capaldi, pictured in a still from that episode. Capaldi played a man trying to cure his jealousy with a hypnosis tape. O'Donnell was also in comic strip adjacent movie The Pope Must Die. Firmly in Rick Mayall and Ed Edmondson's orbit, he became a noted supporting character on Bottom, and Series 3 was directed by Bob Spears. Across 1993 to 1994, he was in 22 episodes of Casualty as hospital porter Frankie Drummer. He'd pop up in Boone, Lovejoy, Bob Spears' Spice World, Shakespeare in Love, Kenny and Perry Go Large, and Bottom spin-off Guest House Paradiso. Also Herman Goring in Churchill, The Hollywood Years. His CV includes other roles of 10 episodes or more. In Help, I'm a Teenage Outlaw, a family show from 2004 to 2006 about 17th century teenagers who fight injustice. Billed as a regular in Titty Bang Bang, a female-led comedy sketch show from the BBC. Co-written by Bob Mortimer, it ran from 2005 to 2007. It featured Debbie Chazen, who O'Donnell would reunite with playing siblings in Series 11 of Doctors. As Sissy and Ivor Juggins, they kidnapped the lead cast member, hid him in a shed, and Ivor got hit with a brick in the escape. They strung that out for 10 episodes. To be fair, the Juggins have their own Facebook fan group. The Letter for the King is a fantasy adventure series from Netflix, and O'Donnell played Mayor's Constable through the first 2020 series. This is his last IMDb credit, and at age 63, he's coming up on retirement. Stephen's on Cameo, delivering joyful messages with trademark deadpan style. The tacky folded star is attention to detail, giving us Maringo's shabbiness and foreshadowing how he's a fraud. O'Donnell looks the part of a sleazeball, maybe extra grease in his hair, a sinister tone, all an ace misdirect. Moffat presents to us Maringo as the episode's villain, but he's not. This plan has been devised for him by a mastermind. Maringo is similar to a straw man, a logical fallacy where someone distorts, exaggerates, or misrepresents. A fake foe, knocked down to claim victory, which in this case would be a successful CM Enterprises promotion. Is Kenny Tiddler's new crush, cross-legged on his desk, one of Sam's favoured positions? Or is Tiddler expressing empathy because Gabrielle Anwar chose Al Pacino and Spike is with Lynda? And Zoe. TONI BARRY's second and last appearance cements her as a rich part of press gang iconography. Her haughty demeanour builds on the big hello in leaning into making Zoe quite unlikable. As Lynda's rival, we're bound to be prejudiced anyway, so Moffat and Barry have fun with it. I find myself closely watching Colin's reactions, sat maybe purposely between Sarah and the door, impeding the chase. Spike, Lynda and Sarah decide quickly they are bonded and nothing's to be done. The tug of war is a really fun precursor to the absurdism to come. Moffat gives the game away with a few thoroughly enjoyable lines.
It's just not your average romance, is it?
Colin,
Yes?
wrong hand, Colin.
The writer recently spoke on his fascination with illusion and magic tricks and says he's terrible at them. Pfft, nonsense. It's a wonderful piece of visual slapstick, an example of strong production with all the creatives coming together to make it. Fletcher, Sawalha, Barry, Hasty, Bob Spears, editor Michael John Bateman, and DOP James Davis all work out logistics for a solid illusion. We get introduced to Zoe's Walkman. Sleight of hand is fine manual dexterity and misdirection in performance. The Walkman is also a high-flying acrobat. With it off stage, our eyes are on the actors. Zoe has a thing for melodrama, and Barry's comical expressions easily are at Fletcher and Sawalha's level. The absurd becomes a type of superfiction, with the fake of Spike's arm operated by Lynda. Mucking about with autonomy, it's playtime with the physical structure of the universe. Stopping just short of sci-fi. I love it. I love it. Somewhat compromised in Zoe's presence, this scene contains every element of Spike and Lynda. Awkwardness and anxiety, control and power, joking as a front, mischief and revenge, cocky assurances of shallow foundation, and tragedy too. Sarah calls Lynda in, but who's driving the van? Colin couldn't have driven him there. Sarah's in back. It's either Phil or Fraz. Unfortunately, GovUK's vehicle inquiry service was of no help. O'Donnell is charged with an exposition dump and succeeds withdrawal and remorse. As scripted, TONI BARRY wears smeared mascara, nice touch, and as with the NB Gillespie affair, Colin is this episode's bad guy. His exaggerated bullet wound is real laughs. How many words he gets out to express it conveniently. His runaway in the background. With the magic trick dismantled, we could metaphorically be on an empty stage and the conclusion of the love triangle.
That scene with Zoe and Spike on the sofa where Lynda and Spike are already attached to each other or holding on. I only just realised watching it again just now that it's the bit in that scene where Spike's hand ends up on the opposite end of the sofa. Well, because it's Lynda's hand. There's another cringy magic trick just like what Maringo's been doing. I just realised that's beautiful, and yeah, and equally fake. But then that sets up this beautiful denouement in the newsroom where reality bites and we realise that Maringo's a fake and Spike and Lynda are holding on, and all they have to do is literally let go of each other, but they can't, and then they do, and there's not much dialogue in that scene, but the expressiveness that you see on all of their faces, Spike and Lynda and Zoe, of what's actually going on here, and as you start to unpick it in your mind, is beautifully done. It's lovely.
Here's a detail I easily missed.
My Junior Gazette rulebook?
There's no such thing.
Because if Lynda is the control freak we've been told she is, wouldn't she insist on writing a rule book? Is she trusting to her staff unspoken freedoms as long as they meet assigned responsibilities? Is the absence of a rule book an oversight with lack of care in her governance? Present your answers in the comments. Sawalha gives a very moving emotional performance. Deep inside, she knows that by her use of the taped conversation, intelligence has made her a winner. And on the outside, it's exactly as it appears, an emotional defeat. An acceptance. Spike has chosen Zoe over Lynda. More sleight of hand. And it's hard not to feel for Zoe as well, who's also had a hard journey. With Spike and Zoe on their way home, there's a mirroring of the big hello. Lee Ross plays his final scene in Press Gang with a knowingness that Lynda's twist is coming. On my first watch, he wasn't a character I paid much mind to, probably down to his big role in How to Make a Killing, which could have been filled by anyone. Oh, there's Kenny brilliance all over, but his personality type is neutral and so muted. He's a character who comes alive most in relation to other characters around him, without meaning to be unkind. He's like tofu, tasteless or bland. Throw in other flavours and he becomes the substance, and the show definitely suffers from his absence. I missed him incredibly. Expect me to spend parts of Series 4 talking about him and how much better he was than Julie. Meanwhile, at 35,000 feet,
they've taken the wrong tape.
and what a marvellous Moffat twist. Press Gang, it's all about the cassette tapes. Oh, I need a break. More from Matt Saunders and Jim Sangster.
Again, we come back to this, the tape that's recording everything. Spike calling Zoe a bimbo, and what happens to that tape. And it's so subtle and so cleverly done that we really do need that. The last one scene in the episode is Kenny just says, well, what happened to that tape? And it's a bit of clunky exposition, but it's really needed, and I think we get away with it there. So does this episode work? Yeah, I really like it. It's very much a change of pace after the heaviness of The Last Word, which of course ran to 2 episodes. It's like The Last Word was like a third of the entire series. So it's quite nice to get back. Brilliant as Last Word is, it's quite nice to get back to something that has a better mix of comedy and drama in it. I think it really does work. And this episode really does deliver emotionally. It's, again, it's all about feelings. And as I've said before, I think the best episodes of Press Gang are like that, where feelings are fully on show, and yet Stephen Moffat just so brilliantly weaves comedy into it without bashing you over the head with it. They literally can't let go of each other. They're holding on. And it comes back to the episode title, Holding On. Right. Love it. And then we get what looks like closure for Spike and Lynda. But then again, throughout this entire series, we've seen how two-dimensional Zoe is. And I don't mean that as a criticism of her characterization, more that Spike's not going to settle for that. And so then you get that closing scene, which again is just marvelously offbeat on the aeroplane. You don't hear Zoe listening to the tape, but she's put it into a Walkman, she can hear it. And then she just looks at Spike like that, and you're like, and then it's another one of those classic freeze frame endings. Love it.
I guess this one is another comedy romp, but it all feels really sad and desperate. We realise it's just one huge prank that accidentally exposes the feelings between Lynda and Spike. And whereas most of these sort of Colin prank episodes, we just, he's in the bad books and we move on. It's really sad because this could be the end of Lynda and Spike. And it's played very much as a sad moment in their relationship. But it's also the last time we're going to see Kenny. So we wouldn't have known that at the time, but he abruptly disappears between seasons. And so we have to just note that this is the last time we're going to see Kenny, and that's a really sad thing. There's a beautiful thing about this episode, though, which I only realised today when I was rewatching it. So firstly, we've got Spike confessing how he really feels about Zoe. And that gets recorded on tape. And Lynda sneaks the tape into Zoe's Walkman. And Zoe plays that tape when she's on the airplane home with Spike. So technically, Spike gets the last word. We don't hear it, but we see her reaction to it. So in all that fight about who gets the last word, it's Spike, but it's also his undoing. And also, going right back to the very start of the series, Lynda manages to get the right tape in the right machine. So, although Spike gets the last word, Lynda wins. And it brings this beautiful sort of circularity to the whole series. Just one final thought. On the wall, in this episode, on the back wall, in the collection of front pages, is one front page with this very big masthead saying, Siege, referring back to the previous episode. Hope that works for you.
A Series 3 DVD disc includes an 11th of January 1991 script. It tells us shooting was to occur over 3 days. Most changes come in the first act and are inconsequential flourishes. Spike's walk into Lynda Day Tower involves talk with a workman about a portrait which has eyes that seem to follow him around the room. He brings Lynda's crying secretary a cup of water. When Lynda 2025 is deploying journalists to cover the chemical factory explosion, she proposes the one she's going to fire tomorrow anyway. Less a cut. At one point, Alex Connell yells from a proofing problem, "Divorce the Birch!" Future Lynda noticed several women who looked at Spike and made sure they went down as part of Zoe's international drug syndicate. And Kenny asks Spike why he's asleep at 1 in the afternoon. "It's 5 a.m. in California," he replies. "I'm a patriot." And there's 5 or 6 cut lines where Kenny tries to impress upon Zoe his neutrality and cautions her about getting in the middle of the Spike and Lynda crossfire. Towards the end of the script, Lynda says she's feeling generous concerning Mr. Maringo. "We're not exposing him?" asks Kenny. "We're exposing him on the front page and the centre spread." The script doesn't lose anything in omitting these small details. It's otherwise how it appears on screen. The exception is a reprise of Spike's dream sequence. It would have played underneath the closing credits. Wandering through the portrait-lined corridor, he'd get to the painting of Lynda, grinning at him like she knows something he doesn't. The doors would roll shut on the portrait, bringing Series 3 to a close. Now, each episode I like to talk about how many times phones are used to drive Press Gang's story. It happens a lot, as you're going to see. Spike is awakened from his dream of the future to be enlisted into the plot to trap Maringo and to answer the door to Zoe.
Look, I'll be back in London sometime this afternoon. Let's get together, talk some things over.
Tiddler gets a phone call from the American Embassy in London, maybe. Setting up the story's detour, Spike calls Zoe, who gives him an ultimatum. Get back in 10 minutes or they're done. And Sarah calls Lynda to bring her back to the newsroom for the big reveal. Series 1 came in with a count of 24 calls. Split over 12 episodes, that's an average of 2. Series 2, considerably more, with 54, an average of 4.153 per episode, thanks largely to Lovin' the Junior Gazette and Yesterday's News, which set records with 9 and 10 respectively. Records which Series 3 broke in its first 2 episodes, 18 for The Big Hello and 12 for Killer on the Line. With a total of 43 calls, it averages 7.166 per episode. That's more than Series 1 and 2 combined. And if you're curious, my definitive ranking is a grand total of 121 calls. Holding On aired on 12th of July 1991. A month later, BBC Two aired the pilot of Joking Apart as part of a showcase feature. However, it had been 1993 before the series followed. A sitcom about a sitcom writer whose wife leaves him. Semi-autobiography by Stephen Moffat with Bob Spears directing. This episode's Alec Connell, Paul Mark Elliott, appeared in 7 episodes as Trevor. Joking Apart featured Robert Bathurst in the lead role. In it, Moffat experimented with non-sequential storytelling as he'd done in Press Gang and would go on to do with Coupling and many other works, really. On 7th of January 1992, Children's ITV debuted Bad News. The Series 4 opener again throws the news team into high-drama corporate shenanigans. It reintroduces Lucy Benjamin as Julie, is as absurd as Press Gang can be, and is one of my favourite episodes. I will talk about it around November 2026, so hold the front page. Hold the front page! Hold the front page! Yeah, I was joking, okay? Thank you to all of my Patreon subscribers who have helped this along. Also, big up to Series 3 contributors Matt Saunders, Jim Sangster, Stephen O'Brien and Rich Johnson. Links to their works in the comments.
I am the amazing hypnotist, Mr. Maringo. Stephen O'Donnell is just a stage name. I want you to close your eyes. And when you open them, I want you to comment and submit to Press Gang Readers' Commentaries. And share this video as many times as you can. As many times as you can. As many times as you can. As many times as you can.